WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by JW Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. I want to thank you for being with us. As always, we come to you on Tuesdays at 2:30. There's a replay at 7 p.m. Star Communications, Channel 16, WCLN Radio as well. And we'd like to remind you, if you need to reach us or contact us, you can contact us via email. It's weshouldknow@edu@gmail.com. Also, if you want a snail mail, drop us a card. We still get a few of those occasionally. Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. Our guest today is a person that has a well-known name around. She's been here for quite a few years. However, she is well-traveled. She's the CEO of the Sampson County Partnership for Children, Dr. Victoria Byrd. Victoria, thank you for taking time to talk to us today. Your background is very weighted in academics. You've traveled. You're a spouse of a military person. We just admire so much of the things that you do and have done.
Thank you, JW. It is a delight for me to be offered the opportunity to be on your program today.
Well, it's our pleasure. Let's kind of get started. I want to give everybody a little bit of background on you. And one of the things I thought was important when I started looking at the numbers, you've got 40 plus or minus years in working in this particular area with children and family support programs since 2021 right here in Clinton with Partnership for Children.
Right. I started in fiscal year 2001-2002, and there are days that I am still surprised I'm still at it. The years have just flown by, and it has been an honor and a privilege to help develop the resources that the partnership does bring to our local community and to Sampson County as a whole.
This, Victoria, from what I can read and having known you for some time, this has been a lifelong passion for you, this idea of children and the families that support those children. This is something you just didn't happen to come across a few years ago. This literally has been your life.
It has, JW, and it was not my original trajectory from a professional standpoint. But what occurred is that approximately 40 years ago, we had our first child, and she was born 6 weeks premature. And at that point in time, there was not the neonatal support that we now have, which is wonderful. And our daughter, Jennifer, had Highland's membranes, which means that her lungs were undeveloped, and consequently, she had a great deal of oxygen deprivation. That, in turn, caused her to be intellectually challenged lifelong. And it was through the work in advocating for her in the arena of medical intervention, physical development, working with a team of specialists who worked with her and worked with us to work with her. It was through navigating the educational arena in order to ascertain and achieve the most maximum benefit for her educationally that I realized that this was truly a passion, and I understood experientially the importance of there being advocates for this particular population of children that are born into an environment where they are deemed less than perfect and kind of need extra supports. So that is actually what began my path on this. But through that, I began also working with parents and families of typically developing children and saw what a need there was in that regard as well. So that experience personally of having a child with unique and challenging needs is really what put me on this journey that I am still on 40 plus years later. And I find it to be an honor and a privilege actually to serve young children and families.
Well, it sounds like not only do you do the talk, you also walk the walk and are a perfect example of someone that knows it from a personal perspective and knows what needs are for children from a professional perspective. I do want to kind of mention that the Partnership for Children here in Sampson County is one of many throughout the state. This is not just one that sprang up. It's something that's been kind of ingrained in North Carolina for some time. However, for some reason, it's often folks will see Partnership for Children, but they don't look into it in detail. And one of the things you and I talked about off air, you literally have got so much stuff we want to cover today. I want to give you the majority of the mic time here, but you got a very exemplary board of directors. In fact, I was looking over that list, and I think I know just about all of them. Great folks serving your and our project here in Sampson County.
That is absolutely correct. The organization that we originally established the partnership under was through the North Carolina Partnership for Children, otherwise known as Smart Start. And so that was initially the project that I came to when I took the position as the CEO. And it's under that umbrella and that source of funding that we have developed in conjunction with our board of directors, with our committee structure for input from community members, to look at what the needs are locally and to develop programs that actually serve the need of the community. And so, as you say, we are board governed. We have a very wonderful board, a very engaged board, a very informed board. Then we have a number of standing committees that various pieces of work get run through and then presented to the board for their approval, or perhaps sent back to committee for some additional work and then later referred back to the community or to the board. But we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's primarily funded through state and federal funds, but we also receive gifts and donations, and we're able to give folks who want to provide monetary gifts to us a tax exempt form for that. But we have a number of programs that are funded through the Smart Start funding, which was a program that Governor Hunt started many years ago. And each county in North Carolina was offered the opportunity to apply for those funds. Sampson County did do that in around 1997. And so they received their incorporation and everything that goes along with incorporating in 98. And then I came on board in 2001. The previous executive director may be well known to your audience as well. He was Neil Hardison, a lovely man. He and his wife were very ingrained in our local community. And Neil also had a child with some unique and challenging abilities. So I think that having that sort of a background brings a certain level of empathy and compassion as well as passion to this work. And so as we moved forward, we developed a lot of different programs. Primarily, our work is done with families in conjunction with helping them to identify a good child care facility so that they can work and be assured that their child is being cared for, not only safely, but their needs are being met appropriately, and the child is developing as they should be. And so under that particular spoke of work, we have our quality improvement activity, which works directly with providing technical assistance to child care teachers and directors throughout the entire county to help them maintain good and appropriate high quality programming. And we have scholarship funds that we allocate to those most at-risk families so that they can indeed either go back to school or to work. We have also under that same area, an area that we term professional development. So we provide a lot of training, those required trainings that are necessary for licensed facilities and child care teachers to hold in order to be in the arena professional childcare, licensed childcare. And then we just work with helping facilities as they wish to increase their star rating, which is this, in North Carolina, the stars are a rating system to indicate the quality of a facility. So we have a 1 to 5 star rating, with 5 being the highest. So a lot of our work is also in helping those facilities to increase that star rating, so that families then can make informed decisions on where they want their children to go to childcare. So, because people cannot work if they're worried about their children, and they need to have a very dependable, a very appropriate, a very safe environment for their children. And so that's a big part of what our work is. But we have a lot of other programs, JW, that do fall outside the arena of childcare itself. And so one of our very newest programs is called Healthy Family Sampson, and it is affiliated with the National Child Abuse Healthy Families America program. And under that, we do home visitation programs. So we go into the homes with we like to start on a prenatal basis and work with the family until the baby is born. And then we do the home visits on a regular basis, either twice a month, sometimes even more than that if it's needed. And we also stay with that family until that child is ready to either go into childcare or ready to step into the NC pre-K classroom, which we also administer in this state, in this county, and I'll talk about that in a moment, or they step into kindergarten. So basically, the partnership has programming that works to support children and families from birth till kindergarten.
When we come back from break, I want to follow up on that, and let's pick it up from there, talk about some of these programs that folks maybe don't necessarily see. But we're going to take a quick break, our first break, and we'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We Should Know is on there. We're talking with Dr. Victoria Byrd. We're talking about Partnership for Children and the impact it has on your community.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
Welcome back. JW Simmons here, your host for a show called We Should Know. A little over 10 years as we try to tell you, so you can help us keep up with time. Seems like it goes fast. We're talking about children today, particularly children and that is in that age category 0 to 5 years, a critical age category. And we're talking with Dr. Victoria Byrd, has academic credentials that include education, business, public administration, and clearly has not only academic but experiential credentials in dealing with children. So Victoria, thank you for being with us. We were on the subject before we went to break of how some of these programs affect and the importance of the programs that you offer that folks might not be necessarily familiar with. If you could just kind of pick up from there so we can move that education needle a little bit further.
Wonderful. So within the construct of our home visitation program, we run the curriculum Parents as Teachers. It is our belief that parents are the first and very best teachers for their own children. And so we support that effort through home visitation, and we bring in learning materials and resources that we actually leave in the home for the families to utilize to expand the exploration activity of the children, because we know from research that a child's brain is 90% of that is formed by the time they're age 5. And so what we are looking at are the repeated positive interactions that build strong synapses in the brain. And so the more frequent positive interactions we have, the stronger the area of development will be. So repetition is a big part of what we do in our home visitation program. So we do leave those resources there for the families to utilize for a week, perhaps 2 weeks, until we come back. And then we talk with the family about how it's gone. And it's wonderful to hear stories about how they have seen their little child develop in just a week or two. It's really very, very satisfying for parents to be involved in that program. I know that when I was when we first had our child and they told us it was time to take her home from the hospital, my husband and I both looked at one another and said, we're not ready for this. She didn't come with an instruction manual. So I think that a lot of first-time parents feel that way, even with wonderful, happy, normal births. That first child coming home, it's like, they're really letting me go home with this child. And so this program, Parents as Teachers, is really an opportunity to help build confidence for parents to understand that they can do this and they are really the very best teacher of their child. So that program is one that we're very proud of. We also have a resource library that somewhat supports that work in that parents can come in, there's no fee for this, and they can check out resources such as certain toys, books that they can take home and utilize with their child as the child is developing. Our resources are geared for children 0 to 5, but we also have an academic library here for teachers who are studying either at university level or community college level, and they can come in and use our resources as well in that library setting. We also are a designated safe surrender entity in Sampson County, and as you know, in North Carolina, we do have a law that a child may be safely surrendered up to 7 days after birth without there being any legal and even it can be in an anonymous way. And so the partnership is one of those entities. Along with that, we're also the state entity for Sampson County for child passenger safety seats. And so this is a project where we are a child safety seat checking station. And so we have certified technicians who teach parents and caregivers how to properly install their car seats for young children and how to safely use seat belts for the older children who may be in booster seats. So this program is one that's very active for our partnership and really does help us to save lives because car accidents are one of the highest mortality issues for young children. I've already mentioned our scholarship program, but this is for our most at-risk families who truly cannot afford to pay childcare costs. So we assist with that. And one of the main things that we try and do is to reach out to our teen parents, and we put them at the top of our waiting list always in order for them to go back to school. So if we have a young person who has given birth and needs to go back to high school to finish that or attend GED courses, we make sure that we cover the cost of childcare so that they can do that, because we know that one of the factors for having a successful young child develop appropriately is having a parent who can take care of that child financially as well as emotionally. And so we want to provide the resources for that young person to go back to school, finish their schooling, and then go on to higher education if they wish to. And we continue to pay the cost of childcare for that. And then I guess our final program would be one that we're very proud of here in Sampson County. And the reason that we're more so proud of that is not just the work that the partnership does, but the work that we do collaboratively with both our school systems as well as with our Head Start provider here in the county. And that is the North Carolina preschool program, pre-kindergarten program. And we currently serve approximately 350 children in about 11 locations. And we're very, very proud to be able to partner, as I say, with both Clinton City Schools and Sampson County Schools. And so we utilize their schools as well as their teachers to provide these services to children. So basically, we contract with them. We pay their costs for their teachers primarily. The partnership provides everything that they need in the classroom from the floor up. All of the consumable goods, all the equipment and materials necessary to outfit the classrooms. And we also provide technical assistance to support the teachers in those classrooms. This is a program where we have very low ratios. There are 18 children in each one of those classrooms to 2 adults, a lead teacher and a teacher assistant. And it's a very critical program that uses curriculum. It uses assessments that are done through ongoing observations in order to know how to best bridge the gap of learning for the children. So it's individualized as well as group education and small group education. And one of the things we also do is when we do identify a child in those classrooms who may have a challenging behavior, we have a behavior specialist on staff here who will go in, do observations, be in that classroom for multiple days, and work with the teacher to help develop a strategy that will help the child to benefit and also help other children to learn how to help their peer in the classroom setting. So that program is very important to Sampson County because a lot of the children that we have in that program are Spanish speaking, JW. And so what we see occur is that they may come into that classroom as a Spanish speaking 4-year-old, but generally by Christmas, they are not only speaking English, but we have our English speaking children who are speaking Spanish. So it is a wonderful collaboration there and a wonderful picture of diversity at its very finest. And I had one of the principals one year who was very reluctant to have pre-K in his school. But we talked about it and I assured him we would help him with it. And I want you to know within 2 months, he came to me and he said, "This is the best thing we've ever had in our school. We now have a bunch of little bilingual ambassadors that are going to be able to help children who do come to kindergarten who can't speak English and help teachers understand Spanish when those kindergartners come into the classroom." So it is a wonderful, wonderful program. And I'm very, very proud of that for our county.
One of the things when you mentioned the Latino folks, is that an overwhelming majority of folks you have that are participating with the partnership, or is it about equal to other populations?
I would say we're about a third of our population is English as a second language learners, and that is really not distributed equally among all the schools. We have some populations, for instance, out in the Hargrove area, down in the Union area, we may have a higher percentage some years of the English as a second language students than other years. And then it just depends on where the family is located, which is determined primarily because these folks are generally in the agricultural industry. And so it generally depends on where they're living and what farm they're working with as to which school they're obviously assigned to. And with that program, we do try and make sure that we put the children in the school that they will be attending kindergarten in, because NC Pre-K is all about kindergarten readiness. So having them in the schools is a wonderful, wonderful platform to launch their awareness and knowledge of the surrounding and the environment that they'll be in for kindergarten. So we do not allow parents in general to just choose which site they want to go to. We do have an arrangement with our schools to try and place them in their district schools.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back from break, I want to kind of touch on the point of travel for these children. Do they have a problem getting to the school, and what kind of assistance is available in that regard? And also, we'll hopefully, if you're listening, call a friend, stay tuned.
Many things have been stolen away during this time of uncertainty. No crowds to cheer on their favorite teams. Applause and pageantry have been stripped away. Thieves are looking to make your home empty and silent. Star Communications has the answer you are looking for. Security by Star. Automation and affordability along with friendly service makes for a security choice that is sure to keep your family cheering.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We should know it's on the air. We're coming up on our third segment here, and for all of our listeners that have been with us for some time, you know that we've got 4 segments. We're kind of halfway to show. We want to kind of encourage you, if you can do 2 things at the same time while you're watching. We don't want you to walk away, or don't want you to quit listening, but if you text a friend or call somebody, kind of get them dialed in to what we're doing. We will remind you, don't get excited if they miss it when it comes on Tuesdays, or if they miss it in the replay. It'll be uploaded to all of those platforms that you look at every day, Facebook, just about every program you can think of, we're uploading it, so it's going out there. And we appreciate your comments from the folks that do see the program on Facebook or one of the social media platforms, YouTube or wherever. We're getting a lot of feedback now, and any program you have, remember, you can let us know. We should know edu@gmail.com. Our guest today is Victoria Byrd, CEO of Partnership for Children. Dr. Byrd, as we went to break, we were talking about children, and particularly the Latino community, and you were talking about children getting involved in school early, going to a school building. We're talking about 5 or less age-wise, so obviously they got to get to school somehow. I would suspect the school bus don't necessarily work. So talk to us about travel. I mean, if parents is listening out there and say, it's a great idea, but wait a minute, I got to work.
Right.
I got to figure out how to get my child there. Help us understand that process.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about that, because that is one of the more wonderful aspects of our collaboration with the school systems as well, as because the schools do provide transportation on the school buses for our 4-year-olds. Now, having said that, we do have a lot of parents that choose to have their children be car riders. But if there is a barrier to access, we do have the availability for the school bus to pick up these 4-year-old children. That is one of the things that makes the program in Sampson County outstandingly successful. As far as retention of children for the entire year, as far as attendance, they don't miss a lot of school. So the more frequently they're in school, the more they're learning. And it keeps a good continuity of structure for the child because they know what to expect. They learn appropriate behavior on how to ride a school bus. They learn safety factors to it. And so it really feeds into that entire aspect of kindergarten readiness, which is what we are striving for through the NC Pre-K program. So we are very unique in the state with regard to that. Not all programs provide that.
One of the things you alluded to earlier, I want to try to get in before we do move to another subject, but I want you to talk a bit about that whole arena. And I totally agree that, you know, as a parent, and obviously you're a parent and a grandparent, I am as well. I don't recall anybody just handing us a book and saying, here's the guide of how to do this for a child or not do this for a child. So how do you help parents or prospective parents or parents that really won't plan to be a parent understand how they're supposed to, or maybe the best practices, should I say, in rearing that child?
Right. Right. And that is a topic that we could talk about for hours on end. But one of the very first tenets that we do believe here at the partnership is that the parents know their child the best, they love their children the most, and they want the very best for their children. So whenever we're dealing with families, we begin at that point. And so our work is to help the parents understand this infant is not going to break as long as we feed them, we love them, which is in this, it encompasses not just the physical aspect of holding, cradling, swaddling an infant, but that supportive mechanism of building trust from day one with an infant. So an infant will cry when they need food, when they want attention, when they need changing perhaps. They cry when they're not comfortable, they're too hot, they're too cold. And so we try and help families to understand that crying is not a bad thing in infants. It's the methodology from which they communicate. And so our jobs are to help find out what the need is and identify and meet that. And so what we really do is encourage families and build confidence in them that they're going to be okay. They're going to do the right thing. We teach them, if it's necessary, we teach them how to prepare formula, how to sterilize bottles, how to change diapers, how to do all those things. And the aspect of being in the home every couple of weeks or so allows the family to know that they've got someone coming in that's going to be physically present to help them. But more importantly, they've got a resource that all they have to do is call a telephone number, and they're going to be connected with their home educator, and that educator will walk them through instances with colicky babies, helping families to understand that sleep deprivation is normal, and sometimes feelings of anxiety or even perhaps a little bit of anger that the child is crying persistently can be areas that we help them to understand that those are normal reactions. But here's how we deal with those. And so helping a family to understand it's okay to lay a baby in a crib if we're feeling a little bit anxious or feeling a little bit angry. Put the baby down, walk away for a few minutes. The baby's safe. Nothing's going to be occurring with the baby that's a threat, and walk away, take a few deep breaths, maybe a glass of water, refocus, regroup, and go back and then put that attention back on the baby. And that can be very beneficial for young parents to hear because when we deal with abuse and neglect, one of the things that we always have to understand is that those incidences are outcroppings of what's going on emotionally for us as adults. So helping families to understand it's okay to step away. Your baby's safe. Step away. It's also something that we encourage them to do with toddlers. Don't get frustrated. A toddler is not a miniature adult. They don't understand the same language that we're always speaking. So we just need to be persistent and then realize it's okay to step away. That's a much better way to deal with that, JW, than to have a situation where we've got anger in parenting. And so helping them to understand that is vitally important.
I think you've covered part of this, but I want to ask this. Oftentimes I've heard this term and read a bit about it, something called a toxic environment for children.
Yes.
And I mean, my first thoughts goes that there's some kind of chemical, but this particular thing I was looking at was discussing the behavioral environment of the caregivers around the children and how they record everything.
That is correct. And if we can think about a child's brain as being a sponge, they do, that brain does absorb everything that goes on. And you heard me say earlier, what we want to do for healthy brain development is the repetition of positive interactions. However, we live in a real world where parents, especially in the current environment, we're stressed for a lot of different reasons. And so understanding that children can handle a certain amount of stress is is key to understanding how to raise a child. There will be stressors. What you're talking about specifically is what we call toxic stress. And those are adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. And they fall in the area of abuse and neglect. It could be alcoholism, drug abuse in the home that the child's exposed to. It could be a divorce. It could be a death. It could be a number of different detrimental, difficult things that we, even as adults, are challenged with. But if those experiences happen with young children and there's not this positive aspect coming back into their lives of supporting them by spending time with them, by reassuring them that things are okay, that playing with them, just playing with them, singing a song, talking to them is one of the most key elements of child development, is talking to them, and not necessarily in baby talk. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about talking to them just like you would another adult, especially when they're infants. Parents will say to me, I don't know what to say to my baby. And I said, it doesn't matter. Recite a recipe, read them to them from the newspaper. It doesn't matter. As long as there's a calm, supportive tone in the voice, it doesn't matter what you're saying to them, just that you are speaking and communicating with them. And then the other aspect that helps to overcome some of these toxic environments is being able to read to our children. And that is fundamental to learning. Literacy, early literacy development is fundamental for young children. And that really allows me to tell you about the final program in our partnership that I've waited to mention, which is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. This is a project that provides free books to children who are under the age of 5. It costs the families nothing. It is paid for. We actually have 2 projects in our partnership, one that's a private one that we have funded with our own funds, and then the widely funded program whereby we supply books to about 2,000 children in our county that is funded through legislation through the General Assembly. So that's something that I'd like to explain a little bit more to your viewers, how to participate in that.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll touch that when we come back, and then move to this exciting agenda of COVID-19 and how it's impacted what you do and everybody around you. So ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're talking with Dr. Victoria Byrd. We're talking about partnership with children.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
We should know. My name is JW Simmons. I'm your host. Our guest today is Dr. Victoria Byrd, CEO of Sampson County Partnership for Children. I want to kind of segue into and get as much as I can done on this last segment. Victoria, we're really have covered a lot of ground, to be honest with you, but there's so much to talk about. One of the things that up front, I think I'll give you a moment to cover the Dolly Parton Library. Then I want to get into how the impact of COVID-19 has affected, along with you, everybody in the world, over the past few months.
Absolutely. And thank you for allowing me to talk a little bit about that impact. But the Dolly Parton Imagination Library is, as I was saying, available to any resident in Sampson County that has a child under the age of 5. Just go on our website, www.scpfc.org. You will find an enrollment form there. Fill that out. It will be submitted to us electronically, and we will put that into the national database. And your child, in about 6 to 8 weeks, will be receiving a book monthly. These books are designed based on the child's age, so they're very age friendly, and they're easy to read. They're fun to read. Some of them are hardback, some of them are paperback, but they're high quality books, and it's something that you can do as a family. And it is one of the most beneficial things you'll ever do for young children, which is to read to them. That develops that literacy ability, which then in fact allows them to begin to learn in other ways, such as math, communication, and thinking, problem solving, all of those types of things. So please, if you are not able to go on the website, call our office. Our number is 592-9399, and we'd be happy to take that information over the phone and get your child enrolled in that program. And as I say, it's completely free.
So let's move to COVID-19. This pandemic has and continues to impact everybody, some more than others. It's changed the way we do business. It's changed the way we communicate. Our expectations have changed. And there are those, Victoria, that say that this pandemic will linger on for years as it relates to our behavior. Even once we find the vaccine and we get inoculated, we'll still be dealing with it behavioral-wise. How is it affecting children, and what do you see from your vantage point?
Well, I will say that it does affect children, and in general, especially if a child is being very supported at home and understands how to accept sometimes frightening things, such as seeing people wearing masks everywhere. The children tend to be able to integrate into that environment a little bit easier. But it is important that we do help children to understand that this is a germ. We have some resources, again, on our website that help children to understand it, that we do have to take protection, which is the face covering or a face shield. Some families even have to use gloves, depending on if they have high risk factors in their family. Some children have high risk factors with asthma, diabetes, and other illnesses. So we really, truly have to teach the children that this is something that we're dealing with. It's not something that we need to be extraordinarily afraid of. It's just becoming a way of life for us. And I will say that I'm seeing, especially in our classrooms, children are very resilient. They're dealing fairly well with all this. And the teachers are so very supportive, and they're doing a good job helping the children with this as well. Additionally, same thing's happening in childcare. So one of the ways the partnership has been impacted is that we have truly acted as a conduit for our childcare community to receive materials and resources that they needed, especially at the height of the initial pandemic. So cleaning materials, PPE, thermometers, things of that nature that they could not go to a grocery store or to Walmart or someplace locally and purchase. Those things were just not there. The partnerships across the state were called upon to be local conduits between the child care community and our emergency management services in each county. So we would interface with the directors of child care centers and then relay that on to the emergency management folks, and then we would be a meeting place where people could come and pick stuff up, or we would have them go directly to the emergency management offices. So that is a big role that we played that really helped our community. We also helped child care facilities to apply for the payroll protection program so that they could potentially stay in business, although they may have been closed. We also interfaced with them to help them obtain higher reimbursement rates from the state. So the Department of Child Development and Early Education has a set fund from the COVID Relief Act. And so we would help connect child care providers with the right people at the state level so that they could receive higher reimbursement rates for that need. This was a community that stayed on the front lines. Our child care providers stayed there. They took risks in order to be able to take care of the children so that we could have emergency essential workers in place. And so we tried to support that as much as we possibly could during that time. We still have an ongoing role that we play even months later with that community. You know, we send them the briefings that come down to us with regard to changes that are required in their child care facility, so that they're made aware of that information so that they can be compliant there and not risk losing license or risk losing a star, just making sure that they have the information. So we don't take for granted that they're automatically receiving that information from the state. We, in turn, go through, send it out personally, and then we make follow-up phone calls to make sure that they've received the information so that their businesses are not at risk. So it has been quite something. We ourselves, as the partnership, are closed to the public. We do not allow the public in our building right now. However, that does not mean we're not serving the public. We are doing what we call parking lot appointments. And so we will set appointments with families to apply for our programs, to do intake, and we just have them come to the parking lot. Our staff are completely outfitted with PPE, and they will go out and meet with them. We are not accepting documents necessarily. We're taking photographs of that and printing that stuff out. We're also using contactless documents platforms for signage on documents that have to be signed. So we have changed quite a bit. We're doing meetings virtually. We're doing not just meetings for providers and families, but we're also doing our board meetings, committee meetings virtually, and all of the home educators are continuing with their caseloads. They're just doing it virtually, and we set the resources outside our building, and folks will come by and pick them up, or the staff may drive by and drop them off on what we call our porch drops. So we drop things off at the porch. When we started pre-K, a home visit is required. All of our teachers did that outdoors. We helped them to develop a process where they would meet with the family safely at the family's homes, and they would sit, social distancing with masks. The children were able to meet the teachers initially without their face masks, but then the teacher would put the mask on and say, "This is how you will see me when you come to class the first time," so that the children knew how to what to expect. So one of the things that we really believe very firmly in our partnership is helping children and helping families and helping the community to regulate expectations. Because I think if people have the ability to understand and to maintain appropriate expectations, then they can be successful in participating in our programming, in participating in their child's development, and raising a child that will eventually be ready for school, ready for life, and a wonderful contributor to our community in general. And that's what our goal is.
One of the things you mentioned a while ago, which I want to try to get in because we're going to have to go in just a few seconds here, but this idea of working with parents to be able to deal with COVID in the sense of their anxiety and stress level. Some studies recently, I'm sure you've looked at, talks about regressive behavior of children. It talks about anxiety with parents and those kinds of things. Are you seeing some of those traits?
We are, of course, JW, seeing that, and we again help parents regulate their expectations around that. So a good example of that would be a child that is already toileting. They regress in that. We've made sure that our pre-K teachers understand that, be ready for that. That may happen. We are seeing some children that just their behavior is, they're acting out their fears. And so we try to help parents understand that, anticipate that, expect that. We give them some tools to help them work with their children. One of the main ones that we use, again, is that physical touch. Letting the child sit on the lap, hold them, reassure them that everything's going to be okay.
We want to thank you for being with us today, Victoria. And Dr. Byrd, you're doing an excellent job, it appears, and with the dedication and service you've rendered for this county, we give you 2 thumbs up.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here.
We look forward to seeing you again. And as always, may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host JW Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.